Okay, here we go. Are we ready? All right. We are starting our second panel. Congressman French Hill will be joining us momentarily. There's votes today, as we mentioned, so we always roll with the schedule in the House and Senate. But we are going to go ahead and get started. We are so delighted. Again, remember to think of your questions. There's going to be an opportunity here, just like the last panel, to ask your questions of the panelists. But I am going to turn everything over now to our Chairman Emeritus, Mr. Paxton Baker.
Thank you, Erica. Good morning, everybody. Lovely day in our nation's capital, and welcome to each of you for coming in for the gold medal ceremony for the members of the board. This is our favorite time of the year where we get to meet the young people who are earning their gold medal, and welcome each of you and your families to Washington, D.C. So I believe we've got people from all around the country today. And Erica mentioned that the Congressman French Hill is coming over shortly. So when that happens, we're going to pause briefly and take a picture. We will try to keep that time to a minimum. We want to be as close to time as possible, leave room for questions. And I should mention that the questions that we're starting with today were actually sent in by each of you in the audience today, young people in the program. So this is wholly programmed around you. And we've got some fun questions. Michael here, who's going to our panels are going to introduce themselves, but Michael specifically let me know that he did not look at the questions in advance. So, so he's going to be fun and spontaneous today, and we're going to have to supply as much information as possible and to make it as fun and welcome and warm as possible. So my name is Paxton Baker, as Erica mentioned. I am the Chairman Emeritus now. I was Chairman for 17 years, and I've been on the board for 22 years. So this is my year of handing things over to our new chairman, Sean Whitman. So to my right, Michael, I'll let you start, and then you, our 2018 gold medalist, who's at the end here, she's going to introduce herself, and she was kind enough to show me a picture, I believe in this auditorium, right?
I think so.
From 2018 when she earned her gold medal. So, Mike.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. First of all, congratulations. It's amazing what you've accomplished, and it's an honor to be here with you today. My name is Michael Kennedy. I'm the Chief Corporate Affairs Officer at Intuit. We're a company software company, 42 years old, believe in powering prosperity around the world. And so it's a pleasure to be here, and we're very committed to financial literacy. And I know a lot of you have done some of our programs and some of the hours that you've accomplished from the Congressional Awards Foundation website and our financial literacy program and our entrepreneurship program. And so we're very committed to that and believe, here's the Congressman, the Chairman, and he's been very supportive as well of all the financial literacy programming and programs that we have. And so, Chairman, thank you for your support and congratulations to everybody. I'd encourage you to, after this and during the break, go out to the North conference room and take a quiz and find out what kind of entrepreneur you are and pick up some good Intuit prizes along the way. But thank you for having me today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Allison Quintanilla Platzmeyer, and as he referenced, I had the honor of getting the Congressional Award in 2018. I am from Nashville, Tennessee. My whole career has been in the nonprofit sector, so I currently serve as CEO of Empowering Neighborhood Partnerships, a grassroots nonprofit that focuses on working for justice and equity for our neighbors, so looking at what is holding our neighbors back and how we can help in bridging the gap. So we run a free store, we have an after-school program, and we do affordable housing advocacy in the community. And I also have started my own consulting practice, AQP Consulting, helping small shop nonprofits with fundraising, grant writing, board development, and strategic planning.
All right, and from a timing perspective, what we're going to do is have Congressman Hill introduce himself, and then we'll take a quick picture, and then we'll jump right in. Congressman.
Well, thanks for letting me come by and say hello, and congratulations to all of you from across the country for earning, with a lot of hard work, one of our congressional awards. Fantastic. I want to thank you, and most of all, thank your parents for urging you, coordinating you, and helping achieve. I see the mother being nudged by dad over here, exactly. So it takes a lot of work. And I'm always amazed at the level, and I'm glad to see that I know there's some Arkansans here from beautiful Benton and Bryant, Arkansas, so it's great to be with you. Before I was in Congress, I've been in Congress 10 years, but before I was in Congress, I was a commercial banker and a venture capitalist and an investment person. So I spent a lot of time helping people start businesses and fund those businesses, and did a lot in families to help create good habits of financial literacy. So it's just a real treat to be with you, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. So we'll take this quick picture.
Yep, it's going to be in front of the table.
Perfect. So from a process perspective, we'll throw out the questions. Each of you can pick one, and then we want to leave room for interaction at the end. So we're going to start with what are your tips for staying financially secure through college? So Allison, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, I mean,
There's a lot of letters behind your name here, so maybe explain a few of them, if you will.
I love school. So I actually have 6 degrees. I graduated with my doctorate of education in leadership and professional practice and my doctorate of business administration from Trevecca. I graduated from the Clinton School of Public Service with a master's in public service, a master's of education in Vanderbilt, and an MBA from Quantic School of Business and Technology. And my approach to kind of trying to bridge the experience gap is it echoing really bad? Okay. My approach to trying to kind of bridge the gap, because when you're younger, you're not going to be able to compete with people in terms of years of experience. That's something that takes time. And so for me, I was always working on how can I bridge the gap from experience or certifications that can help me to kind of demonstrate why I deserve to be in a room. And so anytime I didn't learn something, I went and found a place where I could learn it. And so I'm a certified fundraising executive, grant professional certified, certified nonprofit professional, and chartered advisor in philanthropy. And I think that has allowed me to get my foot in the door with some organizations, that once I was able to get in an interview room with them, then they were able to see, the value that I could bring. But sometimes when you are younger, it's difficult to be able to bridge that experience gap. I will say in terms of like financial stability, I tried to have my hands in a lot of things. So I did a lot of freelance work. I did put myself through undergraduate. So I was always looking for different contracts, both on campus and off campus, that I could be working on. Because I do work in nonprofit sector, the stability is not always the easiest. And so being able to do like a little bit here, a little bit there allowed me to make sure that the risk was distributed. So if I did lose a contract, I knew that I still had other clients that I could be working with. And I really focused on saving as much as I could throughout college and leveraging scholarships. Again, that's why I kind of pursued a lot of certifications, because every honor society got into opened an opportunity for a scholarship that could cover my schooling.
Thank you. Congressman, how do you balance taking financial risk with smart, sustainable business decisions?
Well, one of the things I've done in my career, the most fun have been, starting new businesses. And when you do that, you've got to balance the time you're going to invest, the sweat equity you're going to invest, the capital you need, and you've got to think through if my business plan is, it's an ideal outcome, but also what's like a probable outcome, because you want to measure the capital you need so that you don't run out. I mean, when you're starting a business, the secret is to have that adequate capital and plan married up. And I took a lot of advice. I mean, one thing for me was mentorship of I don't think you can go into any business or accomplish anything without good mentorship, which I know Allison would agree with. But I had people run through those ideas, and I structured the plans I made where I thought even in the worst case, I would have adequate capital in case that growth rate were lower. So that's balancing risk. You want to take risk as an entrepreneur, but you want to try to take it in a prudent way, particularly if you're using all of your money plus all the money you can raise from other people, which is, when I've done this, that's been the case. So I think it's trying to find that balance, and one way to achieve it if you're starting out and you don't have that much worldly experience is to get that worldly experience from mentors who've lived it, worked it, and know the journey and can help you find that shortcut.
So, Michael, what are the biggest mistakes that young people make about finances, and how would you suggest some of those be avoided?
That's a great question. First, I need to mention that my 7-year-old daughter, Rose, helps me get dressed in the morning. And this morning she said, "Dad, you need to wear a seersucker suit. I have one hanging in my closet." And I said, "Sweetheart, I think maybe that's a little too far for me." And so I wore the pink tie instead that she picked out. But she was right. I was wrong. I'll go back and tell
her what a person of extraordinary taste.
Yeah, she's fantastic. So I regret it. Rose was right. I'm not cool enough to have this in my closet, Paxton. Never will be. So that wasn't one of the choices. But listen, I think the ability to continue to learn the skills and as the chairman said, finding those mentors, I think is super important. I think the other side is for the entrepreneurs in the audience right now is you want to be working hard, and you all know how to work hard. You want to be learning what you can. You all know how to learn. I think the mind shift, one of the big mind shifts is you will be now, and probably have been because of you have these medals around your neck, you'll be in a lot of situations where you will think it's a race and a competition. And there's competition, and competition is great and pushes you to do better. It's not a race. It's an adventure. It's a journey. And if you'll go to college, you've got to win here. I'm behind these people. While you go to graduate school, you're going to go into business. You're going to go into whatever you're going to do. Don't think of it as a race. Think of it as the adventure, and think of it as growth. And I think if you have that kind of mental perspective, then the joy, the learning, all the things, and the difficulty, and overcoming the difficulty for growth and not for a race, you'll find the solution there.
So, Allison, you when you talked about getting additional degrees, which is an interesting kind of way of kind of putting you ahead of other people who might be aspiring to get to the same place, do you think there's a certain amount of experience that you need before you strike out from working at a corporation to becoming an independent entrepreneur and starting your own business? Is there like a level that you'd recommend or that you think you need to get to before you try to start out on your own?
I think that it has a lot to do with the amount of risk that you're comfortable with. I mean, I think that we're seeing that a lot of people in this generation, want to start their own businesses and feel more comfortable doing that than working in like a traditional 9-to-5. I think one thing so in addition to getting degrees, I was also volunteering, serving on boards, doing pro bono work for consultants or for nonprofit organizations. So I was able to kind of build a portfolio of things before I started my consulting practice as a full-time gig. Because yes, you're competing against people in terms of years of experience. But one thing that I saw when I was going into the consulting full-time was people saying, you don't need to have all the experience, you just need to have more experience than the other person behind you, right? So there's different tiers. There's gonna be people that have been in it for 20 years, there's gonna be people that have been in it for 10 years, and you need to find your niche in terms of what you have to offer. I think you can start a business, but you have to be mindful about, if you are against somebody with double your years of experience or more metrics, then maybe you're pricing a little lower, or maybe you are niching down offerings. So I think that there's not necessarily a certain age to start a business, but I think it's managing that, where you're going to position yourself within the market and what level of risk you have to take. I had a family, and so I really had to balance can I support my family with consulting alone and the ups and downs of that versus the stability of a 9-to-5. While the stability of a 9-to-5 is great, you are kind of locked into ability to make money and go up a chain of ladder and whatever their rules are in terms of we only do 3% to 5% per year. And so you want to say, hey, am I happy with what I'm making now and what I would like to make in 5 years, or do I want more control over that?
Okay, so Congressman, you're in a rarefied air with the committee that you chair. And I'm curious as to how, from a business perspective, your path, the journey for you to get to where you're at, how does that help you in your decision-making process? And then also thinking through sometimes when you're looking at a bill that's going to kind of do more for large, big corporate versus the smaller entrepreneurial businesses.
It's such a good question. And our committee, the House Financial Services Committee, is a big committee. There are 54 people on it. So I chair that committee. There are 30 Republicans and 24 Democrats. And it has this jurisdiction that's very broad about banking, investments, housing, urban development, crypto, international finance, sanctions. So it's broad. So people we need their broad perspective. But what I find time and time again is the members of that committee whose careers before they were in Congress were in business as an entrepreneur, a startup entrepreneur, or working in a small family business or a corporate business, Main Street or Wall Street, they bring a practical sense of trying to get to a good decision as opposed to people who are academics or they're politicians big time. Like, they got into politics because they know how to advocate for, the most conservative policy or the most liberal policy. But they don't, their work experience isn't about the real world, but that doesn't make them bad. So the first point I'd say is my background, having been in business for over 30 years on and off, was bringing that practical solution. Like, let's find the place to land the plane on this policy that both sides can see progress. So that's practical. And then you ask, well, this is the Washington. There are a lot of the big companies here have maybe what's perceptive more influence over small companies like that are represented by the National Federation of Independent Businesses or the local realtors or whatever. I find that not necessarily to be the truth, that what I consider sort of a Main Street point of view, your chamber, your Rotary Club, your school board members, those people that you live and work in all these congressional districts, they have a pretty strong connection with their elected representatives here in the House and Senate. And that balances out any slick PowerPoint presentation from, some big publicly traded company. So first thing I'd say is that the members that have a private sector background really bring it to the committee. They're better practical solution finders. And then I think the Congress is so diverse geographically and age and in every other way that balances out sort of big co voice in DC. At least that's my experience.
Okay. Thank you for that. So what's your 1, 2, 3 for young entrepreneurs starting businesses?
I think I have enough gray hair to remember being in the workforce the first time a colleague said, check out this website, it's called google.com. And I went there and put in a search query and it was like magic. And it was cool. This is in 1999. And I know I make myself sound super old to people in the audience for saying those words, but you will be able to say to the panels that you serve on that you remember the first time you went to ChatGPT. And that will make you feel old one day. And so I think what we're experiencing now is a tremendous technological change. And for entrepreneurs, there's a way to harness that. And so the chairman mentioned, part of his struggles early on was figuring out, did he have enough capital? Did he have enough insight into his cash flow? There are people who are trying to worry about, how do I find and acquire new customers? How do I serve those customers? And I think that AI is going to help entrepreneurs do that. If you can't hire the chief marketing officer, you'll have one in your pocket on your phone. If you can't have a chief financial officer early on, you'll get those AI-enabled insights, and we'll see agents come out, and you'll have essentially a chief marketing officer agent. You'll have a chief marketing officer CFO, or a CFO agent, and that will give you that, as digital natives, will give you that advantage. And so I think focus on the technology and make sure that you can embrace that and have that become part of whatever you're doing, because it will help you focus on what you really want to do and not the extra things that are around that.
Thank you for that. So, Allison, picking yourself up after you've fallen down, what's your secret?
I think my mother was really big on perseverance. And so I have been knocked down quite a bit. As I mentioned, the nonprofit sector comes with a lot of ups and downs, and jobs being reduced, going back to all volunteer models. And so I think a lot of it is really staying true to why you're doing what you're doing, and keeping your eye on what you want to be your ideal life, right? To me, what sets people apart in terms of being successful is your ability to dust yourself off and get back up and keep trying. I think the people that take their first setback as kind of I shouldn't do this, or allow themselves to be to stay down, is what kind of hinders trajectory, right? And it can be hard. I always try to give myself the moment, try to have a day or two where I say, that's not at all what I want it to happen. And then I get right back at it and I start planning for, what's the next thing that I'm gonna do? Because ultimately, there's all sorts of different paths that you have in life. And so when one doesn't work out, it's figuring out what's my next plan to get to where I wanna be.
Okay. So Congressman, the couple questions in one on this one. For starters, you're from Arkansas. You've mentioned that, proudly mentioned that you're from Arkansas. Being the chairman of a committee, I'm sure there's many times when you have to balance things that are good for your state that may not necessarily be as broad-reaching for the whole country. And so part of the question that I would have for you is, how do you balance that? Things that the citizens of your state who elected you put you, in particular, not just your state, but your particular constituency, how do you balance those kinds of things? And then on the other side of that, I'd like to ask you things that you've gotten right, things that you've gotten wrong.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it is a pleasure to represent my hometown, the home of the Clinton Presidential Center and the Clinton School that you enjoyed, I hope, when you were there. And I'm a graduate of Vanderbilt, so I love Nashville. Well, first, I approach my work like that was with these two examples that I thought were educational to me. Profiles in Courage, the Kennedy book that put Jack Kennedy, on the literary, well, actually, he wrote a book while he was in college that put him on the literary map. But Profiles of Courage was the bestseller. And in the introduction to it, Kennedy quotes Edmund Burke, the famous 18th century English philosopher and member of the House of Commons, about, if you only do what your constituents say every time, you won't be very successful as a representative. I mean, you're being hired to be their representative. We're hiring you to use your judgment on what you think the best outcome has been. Burke says, if we wanted it to just be based on a poll, we just have a weighing machine, and we'd weigh public opinion, and you just would perform accordingly. And he says that's not the essence of being in a democratic republic and your responsibility, which is to use your best judgment. And I've always operated with that philosophy. You might use it as an AI model, since AI is the talk of the town now. Who needs a representative? Why don't we just have a large language model who knows everything about the 750,000 citizens that compose each congressional district? Let's just count on them. They just tell the AI hologram how to vote. So I start out by saying judgment, using judgment. So I believe strongly that, yeah, I've got some constituent interests to balance with the general welfare of the whole country. And that's what's in the preamble to the Constitution, is that we have an obligation to the general welfare too, in addition to any parochial goal of an individual state or district. So I do work hard at balancing that. And in terms of what I've gotten right and gotten wrong, I would like to have voted for less spending if I thought we could get it passed in both houses. And I've always been a little practical there, which is the practical part, Reagan's admonition of, if I can get 80% of what I want, why would I fight? I'll come back for the other 20%. And Congress is a very consensus-oriented item. And I wish in the time I'd been in Congress that we had lowered federal spending faster in a more comprehensive way than we have, and that after all the time I've been here, that the deficit's even higher. Part of that's because of the global pandemic. Part of it's left over from the 2008 crisis. All that's true, but that's something that, despite my best intentions, it's been hard to achieve, where I feel like I've actually done my part to try to lower that direction in spending as aggressively as I wanted to when I came here.
Is there a pathway out of that?
Well, you have to put everything on the table, and that's very politically challenging for presidents. I've worked now I'm in my fourth president, one president serving twice, Trump 1 and now Trump 2. I came here with President Obama, and obviously we had President Biden, and there was no effort to seriously curtail spending because those presidents have their own priorities, and that tends to skew the conversation. So I see each effort to achieve their priorities, but they don't always come at the expense of someone else's in terms of lowering that slope. So to me, it's the biggest challenge of our country. Can we lower that slope of spending? And it's unsustainable when your deficit every year is 7 or 8% of the GDP of the country, and the GDP grows at 2 to 3% a year. That's not sustainable. That's not a good financially literate position to be in. And so lowering that growth rate in spending is the goal right now that Congress is trying to achieve.
And what'd you get right?
Get right, I think a number of things directly related to work at home. First, I'm dedicated to our veterans. We have a large veteran population in my constituency, and we've created our whole office for the last decade. We've always had wounded warriors who served in uniform, had been awarded meritorious medals for their combat service, and they have been a great partner with me in making sure every veteran that comes to our office gets the kind of service I think they deserve, either the health care or the benefits. And then I've done a theme of mine in my district has been, what can the federal government do to promote economic development that benefits the Metro Little Rock area? And we've had some real wins there. We're getting ready to have a major economic announcement that was all due to getting Congress to move and negotiate with the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, to move a navigation beacon that opens up now 1,000 acres to bring a major industrial manufacturing company that we're getting ready to announce. And then I've done a lot in conservation. I've expanded our wilderness areas in our national forests. So it's been a rewarding time, but that nagging thing, if you say, what nags you about why can't we find consensus on lowering the rapid growth in federal spending, because I think it has large, outsized, out-year problems associated with it.
Okay. So, Michael, from your end on the Intuit side, when you're looking at young people who are coming into the workforce, what advice would you give to the young people in the audience today? What are some of the things that you're looking for in the workforce? And then also delineate for me on seeing young people who are interested in being kind of independent entrepreneurs from the beginning versus starting off in the workforce in a traditional job setting.
Yeah, I think we look for what a lot of people look for: eagerness to learn, hunger to make a difference, and I think what we look for a lot, and we in our interview process we actually ask questions around is around our company values, which include integrity and giving back to the community and things like that. Things that you've all demonstrated by having these medals around your neck. So we look for those things. I think if you're looking to go to a big company like Intuit or do an entrepreneurial startup or something like that, I think it's a similar skill set. And I do think what you want to figure out is, your career will take a lot of different twists and turns, and make sure it's flowing in a direction. If you're in a canoe on a river, make sure that river is flowing in a direction where you want to be, and you can kind of see over the horizon and think, okay, that's where I want to be, and you can take the twists and the turns and the rapids and the forks and still be flowing in that right direction. Because people's careers, when you talk to them or see their LinkedIn profile, they seem very linear and they kind of like make sense, but I've found few people whose careers make sense, and you get lucky. And you take advantage of the luck, and you overcome the downs, and grow from the down times. But I think part of that also is finding the right mentors and the right people along the way who will invest in you. Like I mentioned, we're very committed to financial literacy, and we thank the chairman and others for helping us on that. But if you're interested, go to the Congressional Awards Foundation website and check out our curriculum. We have about 150 hours of instruction on entrepreneurship and other things like that we're giving away for free, because we think that this is critical to our nation's growth, to the growth of small businesses. We have about 11 million small businesses on our platform. And what we've seen is that in general, small businesses don't survive past 5 years. And it's hard. It is hard work, and it's hard to start a business. But learning the skill set, figuring out what it takes, adopting the digital tools and the other tools necessary to get you to survive, we can drive that survivability up to about 80%. And so I think learning, getting the skills, getting the insight, and then focusing on the values and the things that are going to want to take you there.
Okay, so we're going to end on this question, both Allison and Congressman, the same question from what you're looking for in young people. I know you're not necessarily, well, you still do hire people in your office, right? So what you're looking for, and then for the audience, get prepared for your questions, because we're going to come to yours right on the other side of it. So Allison and the Congressman will end with you.
Yeah, I think we're constantly looking for people that are willing to think outside the box and are willing to take initiative. So one thing that I've seen is a lot of people that when they start on the job, they're like, you didn't write this on my calendar. You didn't give me a task list for today. And oftentimes when we're bringing on a team member, we want the team member to know like what the goals are and to be able to take those goals and run with them and have initiative and agency in seeking through those goals. So I would say that's a piece of it, is really having that drive. At ENP, we have experienced workers, so they do apprenticeships from 14 to 15 years old, and then interns 16 to 19, and then peer leaders 20 to 24. And we had an intern last year that just killed it. I mean, he came in, he was suggesting how the interns could best work together. He really arose as a leader, and he is running the program this year as a junior in college. And so that's the types of opportunities that arise when you kind of come in and are able to take agency of your work and have pride in your work. I think that goes a really long way. And I will say, yeah, values and integrity. I work in the nonprofit sector, right? So having somebody that I feel like is always putting the best interests of the organization first and seeing how they can be the best advocate of the work that you do out in the community. You want somebody that if you ask, hey, Noah, can you go to this community event on our behalf on Thursday, you want to know that he's going to represent you well and be able to speak highly of the mission. So I would say those are important for us.
Thank you. Congressman.
Well, again, thanks for including me today. I agree with everything Allison said. I would add just a couple of things. First of all, just you truly have a sense of urgency that you come to work, every day fired up and ready to accomplish the mission. And people who have a sense of urgency stand out, as Allison just delivered a great example. Secondly, people that buy into President Reagan's longtime quote that was on his desk for many, many years, which was, there's no limit to where a man or woman can go and how far, what they can do or how far they can go if they don't care who gets the credit. So somebody's really committed to getting the task and the mission accomplished, even though they may or may not be given the ultimate credit for it. I think that's really, really valuable. And then finally, in today's society, two final comments. One, can you write well? I mean, it's not going well out there on expressing yourself in writing and composition, including people who have like graduate degrees. I really don't understand how they get their degree in some of the things that I read. So being able to compose, express yourself in writing and verbally, these are critical. You will stand out. And then finally, for those of you starting your careers, please go somewhere where people are at the office. Go somewhere where there are other people that you actually can develop a friendship, have a mentorship. Working on Zoom is not the real world. And while it is a part of our world today, I think young people have to be involved in a culture and have role models and see other people working and solve puzzles in real time, not scheduling something on Teams. We love the Nats team, but Microsoft Teams is tiresome, which is, not an advertisement not to use Intuit products, but really get somewhere where you're with other people and you can learn from them. I think that's the secret to success. And thanks for having me today. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it. God bless you. Thank you.
I should mention that last night's congressional baseball game, the congressman was happy enough to tell me, what was it?
5 years in a row, the Republicans beat the Democrats, 13 runs to 2. This game's being played since 1909. William Howard Taft, the president, threw the first pitch out back in 1909. And every year it raises millions of dollars for good charities here in the D.C. area. And we're grateful to the Nats for being our partner and letting us play on their field. This is a bunch of old middle-aged folks that think they think they are somebody, finally after that. Because
It was some good athleticism last night.
Yeah, well, you're generous. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you, Congressman. Appreciate it, sir. All right, so we're going to form lines on each side here, and we're going to ask when you come down if you would be prepared to say your name and where you were from and address who you'd like the question to go to.
Hi, my name's Alex, and I'm from Minnesota. And I want to know, I want to ask Mr. Kennedy, what's the biggest piece of advice you would give to a teenager to ensure financial security like 50 years from now? Like, what's the most important step you can take right now to ensure financial security in the future?
Listen, I'm a big believer in the law of compounding. And so start investing some money now in safer places. Because if money's supposed to double every 7 years, in 50 years, that doubling can be big. So I think that's a big part of it. I think you could probably find a few things that you're interested in and passionate about. And if you know things about things and say, hey, this company's going someplace, or I'm not so sure about that one, use your knowledge and your own passions to follow that. And I think there is a temptation, and I think we all have it, to, you make more money, I'm going to buy the nicer car, I'm going to get the, more expensive meal or whatever it's going to be. And I think the idea of living just under your means and investing and taking some of that money and, kind of, they say, paying yourself first, I think is a huge part of that. So that's what I would encourage as well, is kind of figure out what you've got, and then pay yourself first for your future self out of that, and then live within the rest of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Hi, I'm Michael, and I'm from Maryland. I'd like to thank all the guests who have talked and gave us advice. And my question is what is your opinion, and how is your advice different for entrepreneurial startups that main goal is to be acquired through a merge?
Is that for me? I think it really depends on what industry you're going into and if acquiring is something that is natural for that industry. So for instance, for AKP Consulting, it's largely built on my nonprofit expertise, right? So that wouldn't be something that somebody would really acquire, right? But if it's a tech software, or if it's a bank, I've noticed banks, that's kind of the goal, right? Is start a small bank, get a client, acquired by a larger bank. So I think it's really figuring out what kind of infrastructure you can build that a larger company is going to want to, if that's intellectual property, if that's client base, if that's informational software, things like that. What is going to be the thing that a company is going to desire to acquire at one point?
And I would add to that things that are scalable, things that have the capacity to grow bigger and bigger. And also, in that regard, something that once it's acquired by a larger company has the capacity to grow even higher or broader on the other side of that.
I would also recommend, just quickly, don't focus on the exit, focus on the mission, and try to create something that people will naturally want to acquire. And if you're passionate about it and you're making a difference and you have the mission that is making a difference in people's lives and people want to come to whatever you're creating, the exit and the acquisition will come on its own.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we're not unlimited on time, but I think. Okay.
So we did start late, so we have about 15 minutes.
Okay.
So we'll try to be as concise as we can. We'll alternate either side.
Okay. So we'll try to move in quickly, ask questions quickly. We'll answer as quickly as possible so we can get to everybody. Okay.
Hi, my name is Rohan Khanna, and I'm from Lake Forest, California. Thank you guys for your advice and your insights in all of this stuff. I was especially interested in Ms. Platsmere because you have 6 degrees, which is really, really interesting. And I know I mentioned this in the previous panel to the other people who are listening, but I started a nonprofit, and you being someone who started so many nonprofits is just very inspiring to me. And I wondered, what advice do you have for young people like us who want to start nonprofits and grow them?
Yeah, I think landscape analysis is, thank you so much for the question, by the way. I think landscape analysis is one of the most important things. So Nashville actually has some of the highest nonprofit per capita. We have 1,800 in Middle Tennessee alone. And a lot of it is because people have a passion and they want to start a nonprofit, but they don't really look at who's already in the field. And then they're struggling to fundraise because they're competing with nonprofits that started 20 years ago that have already kind of built the corporate sponsorships and fundraising goals. So I would say figuring out who's in the market, and similar to, for-profit business, who's in the market, what are they offering, what is your nonprofit going to offer that is improving upon what's already out there or is not currently out there. And then being able to figure out what is your fundraising base going to be. So a lot of people will approach me and say, I want grants. Grants are, well, first off, we're seeing grants are not the most stable, at least at the federal level, but grants, most organizations will not give you a grant unless you have at least 3 years of Form 990s. And so when you're starting a nonprofit, you need to say, do I have friends, donors, corporate sponsors that are willing to support this in the early years until I reach that point of sustainability. And then again, if you feel like there's something that's already out there that's similar to what you do, how can I partner? So I'm a big person on how can we do cost sharing agreements? Can we share filing fees? Can we share a back office? Can we share a staff member? So a lot of small nonprofits may only be able to do a part-time person, so they struggle to keep people because they can only offer so many hours. So we worked with after-school program to say, okay, you've got this person for 20 hours, we'll take them the other 20 hours, that supports a full-time role, that person can stay longer. So thinking how you can really leverage who's already in the market to maximize the impact as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Hannah Caesar from Melbourne, Florida, and I was wondering if I could get some guidance on how I can find a way to balance individual personal financial success in a business as well as making an advancement in a nonprofit. I know it's more of an individual perspective question, but I would still like some thoughts.
I think it's about like figuring out your values. So I really wanted to be able to give back to nonprofits, and so even when things were tight, I made sure kind of I had my money set aside that I wanted to invest in organizations. But it's really going to be up to you in terms of what you need to feel sustainable. When we teach financial literacy, we look at what is our walk away point. So what's the bare minimum that we need to be able to thrive, and then what's 10 to 20% above that, and that's where we're really going to be comfortable. And so I started pretty early kind of putting a little bit aside towards nonprofits, but you can determine is giving them $100 this year going to matter, or is saving that and giving them $2,000 5 years from now going to be a bigger impact? I think you just have to kind of weigh that personally.
And as you're balancing kind of your personal success versus the nonprofit work, I think you'll go to high school graduations now and things like that, or college graduations, and people will say, follow your passions, and I actually think that's kind of bad advice. I think find what you're good at and then spend the time and the resources to get great at it, can then give you the financial comfort and success to be able to then say, okay, this is what I'm passionate about, and I can now spend time on the nonprofit or other things like that. And I think example, like Shaquille O'Neal, the basketball player, he wanted to be a rapper, right? And I think that was his passion, but what he was good and great at was playing basketball. And so he was able to get great at playing basketball. And then, he actually made a movie and produced some rap albums and things like that on top of it. But he wouldn't have been able to do that second half if he didn't focus on what he was actually good and great at. And so I think, you're going to have passions, you're going to have personal interests, but I think when you're trying to balance that passion and your career, find what you're good at and get great at it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple questions for Mr. Baker. My name is Aiden Farrell. I'm from Austin, Texas. I just want to start by saying I earned a majority of my physical fitness hours by learning how to play rugby, and I now play for Mount St. Mary's at DC. I'm in Maryland, sorry. My first question is, how would one go about getting an internship at Old Glory? And second, what did you see as the long-term financial upside of investing in an emerging sports league like MLR?
So on the Old Glory internship, we can talk about that one afterwards. And right now, so I first invested with the Lerner family with the Washington Nationals back in 2006 when we purchased the Montreal Expos, which became the Washington Nationals, and we purchased that from MLB after they had been in Washington for 1 year. We purchased the team at $450 million back in 2006. The last valuation puts us somewhere between $2.2 to $2.5 billion. And then when you look at other sports purchases across the spectrum, primarily if you take the big four, hockey, basketball, baseball, football, and basketball, the valuations have gone just absolutely through the roof. And for basketball now, if for a minority investor, and when I say minority, I'm not meaning of color, I mean like a person, to buy 1% of a sports franchise in the NBA, you have to have 20 million liquid capital to buy 1% interest in the team. So to have 20 million that you can part with, what's what, 200 million maybe? Right.
If you were going to give up,
Yeah, if you were going to give 20 million up, right, you'd have to be your valuation is somewhere around $200 million yourself. And so the Washington Commanders went for, $6.7 billion, I believe was the number. So 1% of that would be $67 million, which puts the number up even higher. So I think that and most people don't want to come aboard and not have any say whatsoever in a team. And that is literally, if you're in the 1% level, you're making no decisions whatsoever. So if you put $1 million into a rugby team, there's 10 rugby teams right now in the Major League Rugby spectrum. Or recently, the two leagues started up this year, Unrivaled, which is women's 3-on-3, which is now Olympic sport, and also the Tomorrow Golf League started up this year with virtual and indoor golf with Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods as the lead investors and league stakeholders in those. You put $1 million in either one of those, you've actually got a decent chunk of it. So the alternative sports give you an opportunity, in my opinion, to really grow, and or if you put a decent-sized investment, you have the opportunity to really get an outsized return. Michael mentioned earlier about your money doubling every 7 years. I invested in DC Power this last year, which is women's soccer, and before the ink even dried on my investment, the number had gone doubled already from a valuation point of view. So I think that the smaller teams give you smaller sports give you a much greater outside return, and the technology is only going to continue to help them grow because you can bet on them now. And that's big a part of what's been the traction for picking up on all the major sports as well. So
Thank you.
yeah. You?
Hi, my name's Arushi. I started my congressional award in Illinois, but I ended it in Florida, so just want to give respect to both places. And 3 weeks ago, I moved to the DC area.
All right.
I moved here because I'm continuing my career in finance, data, and AI. I am doing an internship at Freddie Mac, and I specifically have a concentration in fintech, so exploring all those things. I have found what I'm good at, which is numbers and explaining those and presenting those, and I am investing in it. So my professor reached out to me, and this fall I'm starting a master's in AI and business analytics, which will be so much fun. So I've had the privilege of seeing the space that I'm in change a lot. Representative French Hill would appreciate. We're 5 days in person now, so that's really fun. My question is, what advice would you give to me to make the most of my internship, being here in DC, for my future? And lastly, this is for Michael Kennedy. I'm exploring the financial market. It is very diverse. And so what is your advice on finding a place for yourself?
Yeah, I think you're doing it. I think that's terrific. Congratulations. That's very exciting. On the internship side, and Intuit interns, raise your hand. They're right here. They're awesome. Thank you for being here today and for being with us this summer. I think, over my career, I worked here on the Hill. I was chief of staff to a senator and other things I've had, probably 500 interns that I've had in my career. You remember the really good ones and the really bad ones. And then there's like a group in the middle that they kind of all blend together a little bit. So first of all, don't be remembered for being bad. And I think the way to get from being kind of in that middle to being remembered for being really good is always putting your hand up, showing up, being willing to do anything. And then once your internship is over, because it'll go fast, right? It's already gone fast, I'm sure, is maintain that network. And the people will say your network is your net worth, right? And so maintaining those relationships, and you never know where those will take you. And so I think once you leave, set a Google Calendar a reminder and make sure that every 3 months you're just checking in, hey, this is what I'm doing now, this is what I'm doing in my master's, this is what I'm thinking about with AI, and check in with people. Because what happened to me in my career is I interned in the Senate here in this building, and I went to a startup that failed spectacularly. When I was trying to pick up the pieces afterward and figure out what my life was going to look like, I had kept in touch with the chief of staff who was there when I was interning. And I called him up and we sat down and he gave me some great advice and ended up hiring me. And it was because I kept, over about 3 years, kept some of those relationships warm and checked in. And I think what he remembered me from the internship is I showed up early, I stayed late, and I was always willing to do everything.
Thank you so much.
My name's Chris. I'm from New Jersey, and my question is for Mr. Baker. Can you tell me more about your early career path and how you gained enough money to be able to invest in these sports?
I couldn't hear you correctly. What's that?
My question is, can you tell me more about your early career and how you gained enough money to be able to invest in these sports teams?
Okay, so I worked when I went to community college, then I went to community college in Pittsburgh and college at Temple University in Philadelphia. I was the entrepreneur from the beginning, other than working at school and different jobs that I picked up along the way, which were primarily sales. I was the entrepreneur. In time, and Mike's point about passion, I was the person who followed my passion and loved music and ended up producing concerts in college, which led to a career in producing music concerts. And it grew to producing international music festivals, different parts of the world. I caught the attention of Bob Johnson, who was the CEO and chairman of BET, who ended up buying my company. And with that, he bought my company, then sold BET to Viacom. He became the first African-American billionaire, and all of us got to cash out who were under him as well. So with that, I was able, and then I got a job working for him, running BET's second network. I started to save. One of the things that we haven't really talked about today is savings, but that can never be overemphasized enough, is savings. And it doesn't matter what level you're at, you have the capacity generally to save something. And Michael mentioned living below your means. That's a critical piece as well. Never spend everything that you have. If you can manage your finances where you've got some savings, you will then start to be able to have money to invest. I did that through how I lived and through the different sales of companies I participated in. And then once I was able to be a part of a sale like BET to Viacom, it becomes infectious, just like winning does. Savings becomes infectious as well, and it starts to become really exciting when you've got money saved, and you can begin to invest that. So, my passions are music and sports. The first part of my career was music, and sports has been the last half of my career.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So, do we want to do a thing where we ask like 2 or 3 questions, or like kind of have everybody, and then we'll kind of summarize? Does that make sense? Okay, so what we're going to try change it up a little bit. So we're asking everybody to ask their question, and then we'll work at summarizing it in one big, beautiful answer from each of us.
Hi, my name is Lisa Stephen, and my question is for Mr. Michael Kennedy. Today, when we're trying to start a business that doesn't want to fail in 5 years, how do we find good, reliable mentors? And is that necessary nowadays, especially in the world of AI and ChatGPT? Do we still need human mentors?
Okay.
Hi, my name is Shannon. I'm from New Jersey, and my questions are directed to Dr. Quintanilla Platzmir. So I had a question about, you have 6 degrees, you said. So firstly, I wanted to know if you think it was worth it to get all of those degrees. Would you go back and do all of them again? And then secondly, knowing how expensive it can be to manage post-secondary education as a whole, but then even more so post-undergraduate education, just wondering how you got scholarship opportunities or opportunities wherever you found them to fund, the amount of degrees that you pursued. So thank you.
Great questions, by the way, everybody.
Hi, I'm Eli. I'm from Norfolk, Virginia. This is for Mr. Baker. This question is, how do you start, let's say that I want to end up in the avenue of sports and business. How do you start broadly and eventually get to your passion? If you're not immediately having a connection with sports or athletics in business, how do you get to that point in business? Thank you.
My name is Anj, and I'm a rising junior in high school from Oakton, Virginia. And first of all, congratulations on being such successful entrepreneurs. I'm sure your journey to being a successful entrepreneur was definitely very challenging, and especially in the initial stages of your journey, you probably had a lot of challenges. So if you could just share one of your biggest challenges in your career, that'd be really helpful.
Hi, my name is Sur. I'm from New Jersey. And my question is, what's your guys' relationship with risk? As very successful people, I'm just wondering how to balance both taking big risks and opportunities while also making calculated moves which are safer.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Ray Johnson, and thank you for bestowing your wisdom on all of us. My question is, since social media has become very prevalent for our generation, especially with the job search opportunities, I'm curious about how that has impacted you over the years with noticing the transition of how integral it is with each of your respective businesses.
Hi, I'm James. I'm from Jackson, Wyoming. And on the last panel, Dr. Chavis talked about merit advancement and opportunity over DEI in line with the new presidential change. And now when many focus on equal outcomes, how can the private sector better reward merit and initiative without compromising on fairness or opportunity?
Hello, my name is Hannah Lorenzo. I am from Fredericksburg, Virginia. My question is, how do you personally fuel innovation and maintain motivation in a field where there is a cost for failure and a cost for time?
Hello, I'm Emily and I'm from Maryland. So this question is for Dr. Platzmeyer. What are some mistakes that you see first-time entrepreneurs making when they're starting up their business, and how might we avoid them? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Vaishnavi and I'm from Maryland. First of all, thank you so much for giving us such valuable advice. So my question is, I'm a high schooler right now, so how can I start investing? What are some really good opportunities for me to start now? Thank you.
Wow, those were incredible questions. So let me say to the parents out there, first and foremost, or I should have said this at the beginning, to thank the parents for bringing such wonderful young people here to the nation's capital. Congratulations to each of you. We used to do actually in the beginning, when I first started with the award 22 years ago, it was one ceremony, then it was two pretty quickly, and then it grew to three, then I think we got to four, and then it became almost unwieldy at that point. We had to do something to change the format. So some of the formatting change that you have seen is because of the growth of the program, but at the bottom of it all, our parents who are involved in young people's lives, or mentors and counselors. So congratulations to each of you. The questions are incredible. I'll start with Michael, then Allison, and then I'll try to answer the parts that I can.
You know, I heard a lot of things about risk and failure, and I think what I would say is don't be afraid of failure. You're all super accomplished people. You probably have great report cards and grades and test scores and keep doing those things. But at some point, success becomes kind of a liability that you have to succeed because you've always been successful. And I think one of the wonderful things about this country is that we can fail, pick ourselves up, and move on and learn from failure. And failure is not, there are other places where if you start a business and don't succeed, and I was talking to my friend from the UK about this, that if you have a failed business, it becomes kind of this, forever permanent stain on your record. And I think in the US, failure is not that. And if you look at the founders who have been very successful and started amazing companies, a lot of them have several failures under their belts. And even at the successful companies, they've had products and initiatives and things like that have failed. And I think the times in your life that you learn the most is from some of those times when things don't work out the best. And so take the risk, find those, two-way doors where you can come back, and then understand if you're going through a one-way door where you can't come back, that, make sure that if that door closes, more are going to open on the other side. There was a comment about DEI as well, and I think that we have seen kind of a massive swing recently from a corporate side and from a education side and other things like that from the government. And I think the view on that for us and for me personally is that diversity, diversity for diversity's sake maybe isn't an end in itself, but if you have people around a table coming up with ideas for entrepreneurial outcomes, if everyone thinks the same and has the same experience, you're not going to get the same diverse perspectives that are going to get you to the best outcomes. And there's empirical data out there that shows that if you have different perspectives and diverse experiences around a table, you're going to get to better outcomes. And so that's why diversity matters for me. And that I think that you want to be able to give people the opportunities to give their perspectives and to disagree, because if everyone looks the same, thinks the same, and has the same experiences around a table, you're probably not going to challenge yourselves in the way you need to. So those are some of my thoughts on the questions. Go.
Thanks, everyone, and thank you. That was wonderful. I would say to the comment about degrees, so I think in terms of higher education, it is similar to business. What is the return on investment? Whether that's access to opportunities, whether that's getting a new role, whether that's getting an area of expertise that you did not have before. It's really weighing that. I'll be honest, like I would not have pursued all of the degrees that I had if I was paying for all of it on my own. So like most of them, I had scholarships. I was able to do payments on my own, so I knew like, hey, I want to pay my way through school, so I'm going to work all these extra stuff because that's something that's important to me, right? I probably would not have taken out a bunch of loans in order to do that. I did take out a little bit of loans, but I did it knowing I'm going to be in the nonprofit sector for my whole life, so I was saying public servant loan forgiveness, right? Which, you know, may or may not be a thing moving forward. But for me, it was looking at, is there scholarships? Is there opportunities to get a skill set? I will say, like going through to an EDD, I think that my first CEO role of a nonprofit I got because they perceived I was much older than I was because I had my doctorate at that time. And I'll just be honest, I got my first role at 23. So I do think it was helpful in getting me into doors that I would not have gotten in beforehand. I don't think that there's any that I necessarily wouldn't go, but I will say it has hindered. People make perceptions about overqualified, or that they, you know, if you're going for a lower role than CEO, it's, oh, they're going to be gunning for my position. So I have seen a setback in that way. First-time entrepreneurs and early mistakes, I would say either scaling too quickly or not scaling fast enough in terms of getting people under you as business comes in. So for instance, like again, I am doing consulting, and so my ability to make money was directly tied to my hourly output, which I got to about 80 hours, right? So then at that point, it was, I need somebody to help with fulfilling hours and subcontract to, but I was already so overly tapped that I couldn't take the time to properly onboard and train them. So I think scaling in a sustainable and systemic way is important, and that's what I typically see, is that you're either not delegating early enough or you're trying to go too fast and you're agreeing to capital investments that you're not seeing the return on investment, and so you run out of cash flow. And then I wanted to say leveraging for social media for growth. I hope I understood like that question correctly. I think that social media is one, very helpful in getting access to job opportunities at this point. I would say LinkedIn is your best friend. That has been where I've found a lot of potential clients. Everything that I do, I put on there, whether it's a project or a program. I ask for recommendations from everybody that I've worked with. You'd be shocked what people know about you or are willing to say about you when you ask. And that can help you with leveraging yourself as like a thought leader, getting access to sit on panels, getting access to publishing articles, which again kind of further builds that brand. So I think social media can be very helpful, especially for entrepreneurs in establishing like that credibility and getting access to opportunities.
Thank you, boy. I feel like I could clap for either of these or both. So I'll try to end on a quick note. I will begin by saying that one of my greatest mentors, Napoleon Hill, who wrote the book Think and Grow Rich, the core tenet for him is a positive mental attitude. And I find that for myself, that has been the thing that has inspired me and picked me up, has been maintaining my own mental attitude regardless of what it is that I go through. The deepest tribulations and trials that I get through, to being knocked on the ground, to losing accounts, to struggles that come along, because they come along on a daily basis. So your mental attitude is the core of it. Another one is a friend gave me a saying that I work on a continual basis, and that is never say anything about yourself that you would not want to be true. So I work at not allowing negation and negative thoughts to dwell inside of my brain, and I work to sweep them out as quickly as I possibly can. Relationships have been everything for me. The word mentor has been bounced around a lot here on the stage. All of us have talked about it, from the congressman to Allison to Michael, has been mentors and people who've helped us. I can't overemphasize that at all. And then one of the other ones that's been talked about, Dr. Chavis talked about in the earlier panel, and that was on being careful about not making mistakes that you can avoid, that things do matter. So try to avoid things that you can kind of, the more wisdom that comes with experience, you start to see things coming and say, boy, I've seen that happen before. Let me avoid that particular pitfall. On the investment front, I would add in one of my models for myself is never to invest something that I can't afford to lose. So when I was asked a question about smaller sports pieces, I don't put more into an investment, an individual investment, than I can afford to lose on that. At the same time, risk is an interesting piece because I have not put as much into some of the investments that I should have that turned out to be, there was a couple of them that were the best, could have been the best investments I'd ever made. I was smart enough to put a little into it, but I didn't put anywhere near what I could have, and the outsized returns there. So there is no real hard piece on it. You jiggle something, and sometimes you catch a break, and something turns out amazing. Sometimes it doesn't work that way. When I invested into the Washington Spirit Soccer Club, I was asked to invest in, the valuation of the team was $7 million, and I exited about a year and a half later, and it was sold for $35 million. So, and I was asked to put in a much higher number than I put in, and I wish I had put that number into it because it turned out to be a brilliant investment, but who could have known? So you really don't know on those. And then I'll just, I have a little saying that I picked up at a shop. It said, live the life that you imagined. And so I would encourage everybody to follow your imagination, be as in love with your imagination and your dreams as you possibly can be, because often they do work out. And I've been fortunate enough to be a part of many of those things that worked out. So Erica, thank you. And also thanks to the Congressional Award staff who've put together an amazing day of programming. I think we've got lunch coming up. You're going to come up and kind of guide us out on what we need to do. And thank you to my panelists, Michael, and also Allison, Congressman Hill as well. It was a joy to spend this time with you, and it went way too quickly. So thank you. Thank each of you. And thanks so much for sharing this last hour and change with us.